This podcast makes over $50,000 a month, and in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how, with pointers on how you can do something similar to start a successful money-making podcast. If that sounds good to you, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons and comment your favorite podcast in the comments below. Today, I'm going to break down how the Sleep With Me podcast built a unique business out of bedtime stories. We're talking real revenue streams, business strategies, and actionable tips you can apply if you're looking to turn a passion into profit. Drew Ackerman, also known as Scooter, started Sleep With Me with a simple goal: to help people who have trouble sleeping by telling them strange, funny, boring stories. This turned into a full-time business, and it's a masterclass in turning niche content into serious revenue. Let's talk about Drew's backstory because it gives some helpful context for why the podcast works so well. Drew grew up struggling with anxiety and sleeplessness, and he knows firsthand how isolating those sleepless hours can feel. So when he decided to start a podcast, he went with what he knew best: the soothing, distracting power of bedtime stories. Instead of focusing on traditional podcast topics like news, comedy, or interviews, he went with something super niche, aiming his content at adults who needed help falling asleep. By tapping into his own experiences, Drew created a podcast that felt personal and authentic, which made it really relatable for his listeners. Key takeaway: if you're looking to start a business or a project, think about what's genuinely personal to you and how that can connect with a specific group of people. Now, on to the big question: how did Drew turn this sleepy concept into a business that makes tens of thousands of dollars a month? First, let's talk about his main income stream, Patreon. Patreon is a platform that lets fans support creators by subscribing to exclusive content for a monthly fee. Drew realized early on that his listeners found real value in what he was doing, so he set up a Patreon account where fans could access ad-free episodes, bonus content, and other perks. As of January 2024, Drew had over 6,000 patrons, many of whom were paying around $5 to $10 a month. That alone has racked up a very decent monthly revenue. Here's what you can learn from this. If you're making content that really resonates with people, they'll usually pay for a little extra access. Patreon is ideal if you've got loyal followers, and it's worth considering if you're building an online community around your content. Now, I did notice in my recent research that Drew is in the process of moving his subscribers over from Patreon to Supercast. It's a similar platform to Patreon, but I guess it must offer more, which is why Drew switched over. You can see that Drew offers subscriptions from $7 to $25. Again, with thousands of subscribers, it's incredible how much he could be making per month. If he has 6,000 people paying him the lowest subscription price, which is $7, Drew's making at least $42,000 every month through subscriptions alone. But it's not just about the money. Let's get specific about why the subscription model works so well for Sleep With Me. Drew doesn't just provide his regular episodes on these platforms. He's created a tiered system where the more a listener pays, the more benefits they get. For example, for a small monthly fee, listeners get access to ad-free versions of the show. For a bit more, they can get bonus content or special Q&A sessions with Drew. By giving fans exclusive perks, Drew not only generates income, but also builds a closer relationship with his audience. People feel like they're part of something, and that sense of community drives even more loyalty. Key takeaway here: if you're thinking about using Patreon, Supercast, or a similar platform, think about how you can add value at each tier. Don't just think of it as a way to make money, think of it as a way to offer deeper engagement for your most committed fans. Now, let's talk about sponsorships. You might wonder why companies would advertise on a podcast that tells boring bedtime stories, but the truth is it's a perfect match. Drew partners with brands that make sense with his mission to help people relax, like Helix Sleep, which sells mattresses. Sponsors see value in reaching an audience that's already interested in wellness, relaxation, and self-care, which makes Drew's show a natural fit. These sponsorships are targeted, meaning they don't just bring in revenue, they feel relevant and useful to the listener. So here's a practical lesson: don't just accept any sponsor. Think about what makes sense with your content and what adds value to your audience. If the sponsorship feels like a good fit, it won't disrupt the experience for your listeners. Instead, it will make them feel like the brand understands their needs, and it won't feel like you're just trying to push products onto them for money. Another part of Drew's income model is merchandise. While this isn't his largest revenue source, it's a way for loyal fans to feel even more connected to the podcast. Sleep With Me sells items like cozy hoodies, pillowcases, stickers, and scrunch pants with the logo on it. This merch doesn't just provide a bit of extra income, but it also strengthens the brand. For fans, these items are reminders of the show's comforting vibe and give them something tangible that represents their favorite podcast. If you're thinking about selling merch, think about what would genuinely appeal to your audience. Don't just slap a logo on a t-shirt. Make items that reinforce your brand's message or solve a problem for your fans. Now let me pause here for a second to highlight something really important. Sleep With Me didn't take off overnight. Drew started the podcast back in 2013 and spent years building up an audience. There were no shortcuts, just consistency and persistence. He kept creating episodes even when his audience was small because he believed in the podcast's purpose. Any project, especially in the content world, takes time to grow. There's a lesson here. Whatever you're building, whether it's a podcast, YouTube channel, or blog, you need to commit to the long game. It's tempting to chase quick wins, but lasting success usually comes from staying consistent and getting better and better at what you do. So, what if you're interested in starting a niche podcast yourself? First, find a specific angle. The podcast world is crowded, so niche content has a better chance of standing out. Drew didn't try to appeal to everyone. Instead, he focused on a clear problem: insomnia, that he could relate to personally. This connection is why he's been able to create authentic content that resonates really well with a specific audience. If you can find a unique angle, you'll be able to connect more closely with your listeners and build a dedicated following faster. Next, stay authentic no matter what. One of the reasons Sleep With Me works so well is that Drew's storytelling style feels genuine. He's not trying to be a polished storyteller, he's just being himself, which makes the podcast feel more relatable. People don't just want perfect content, they want content that feels real. If you're launching a podcast or any type of content, think about how you can bring your true self to the table. Authenticity builds trust, and trust is what keeps people coming back. Finally, think about multiple revenue streams. If you want to turn content into a full-time income, relying on just one income source can be risky. Drew has Patreon, now Supercast, sponsorships, and merchandise all working together to keep his podcast profitable. Each income stream adds a layer of financial security and allows him to keep the podcast going. For example, even if one sponsor pulls out, Drew still has Supercast subscribers paying him. Diversifying income streams isn't just for podcasters. It's a smart strategy for anyone looking to build a sustainable online business. So if you're making money online, think about how you can add different revenue channels, whether it's ad revenue, fan support, products, or services. Drew took something simple, bedtime stories, and turned it into a profitable business. He didn't follow the traditional rules of podcasting. Instead, he made his own path by tapping into a specific need and being consistent. And if he can create a business from helping people sleep, then there's room for anyone with a unique idea to build something successful. Do you have a podcast or content business idea in mind? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this helpful or interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe for more business videos like this.